Hey Chakib, how are you doing?
Great, nice to have you back from Japan. I hear you had a great trip.
Actually, I've been kind of on a whirlwind trip. I've actually spent 2 weeks in South Africa. I met with the mayor of Johannesburg, the city of Cape Town. I met with the CEO of Massmart, the CEO of Standard Bank, a couple of other CEOs. I can't remember all the customers. I then went to Melbourne and Sydney. I met with a couple. I've met with Medibank CEO and some of the banks down there, plus in Sydney, CBA, so many companies in Australia as well. Then I went up to spend time in Hong Kong with Mark and friends in China to understand how that business was moving along, and then off to Japan for a couple of days to visit our Japanese customers. So I actually had a fantastic trip. I don't know how many customers we saw along the way, probably about 30, 35. It was pretty long. Many C-level executives, and what was really interesting for me on that trip was how far your digitization story has started to spread around the world. So this was one key topic of discussion that I had with many of these CEOs.
Terrific. I think for those watching this video, there was nothing rehearsed. I just got to the office. I was in New York meeting with an executive group, and I think we're trying to just have a dialogue here about how do we speak with the customers. And I think I'm going to have some questions here with Rob, and we're going to talk about 5 steps we go through. And it's very much we follow them in a very disciplined manner. One is we prepare a lot before we meet executive. And we don't believe just showing up and talking is going to get you much. Then we have to warm up the dialogue. That's step 2. Then we get into real discussion with the executive for their problem where we can help, and then we typically finish with some action item, and then we have a follow-up. So let me start with step 1. You have jet lag, you're flying all over the place, and there was an army of people behind the scene preparing your 30 meetings you had with executives.
These draft papers, right?
Draft papers, and you're meeting with different industries. You're dealing with different situations, and you're meeting sometimes head of HR, sometimes a CEO, sometimes a CFO, sometimes public sector.
Head of sales, yeah.
How do you prepare for those meetings? What is the one thing you really need to do as an executive to make sure you feel prepared for those meetings?
I mean, it's really good. I mean, first of all, I go into the view as like, what am I going to do in the first 5 minutes? What's going to be the meat of the meeting, and how are we going to end the meeting? So I kind of look at it like that. And in the first 5 to 10 minutes, I got to be prepared for many things. One is the environment around the customer. So, what kind of sports teams do the customer, who am I meeting with? How big is their family? How many kids? Which universities did they go to? Are they still in school? So that I can have a rapport with the customer when I walk in the room. So I find out as much details as possible about the customer and their personal environment. And then if I don't know enough, I'll ask the local team to find out for more about the customer for me, because often these customers, many of them just want to have a quick dialogue around personal things. It could be about rugby in Australia. It's about rugby. The first thing that
the warm up.
Yeah, it's the warm up, right? Yeah. So it's a warm up. So we have a quick discussion. I'll make a joke about how they lost the Ashes to England and who loses to England, and we'll start a quick discussion. We may be banter around some rugby that South Africa lost to Australia and so on. So that's the first thing. I always try to make certain I have enough personal facts that I can connect to the discussion. Secondly, I spend time on YouTube, YouTube, on CNBC, on Bloomberg, and I try to see which of the last video interviews they had. Typically, many of these executives, if they're C-level executives, would have spoke about their business, the challenges they have. They would have been interviewed by Bloomberg or CNBC, and you can get nuggets of what they're dealing with in their business. Make certain you know the financial facts about the company. Did they hit their targets, their revenue goals? Which pieces of their business is going up, which pieces are going down, and so on. And then I would say that's the centerpiece, personal. Then understanding the business environment, not only from the account team, but from my own personal view, and where they have delivered. And then I'd have a very clear pitch of how SAP can help the customer. So whether it's a transformation pitch, but I got to know when I walk in there that I have something that I can give to the executive.
So you're prepared for the dialogue.
Absolutely, you know, and many other folks, Pat Bakey and many other folks in the industry cloud, and even yourself will know when I'm 10 minutes before a meeting, because I'll shoot out an email and say, hey, what the hell is going on in the retail industry in South Africa or in Australia? Tell me this, tell me that, so that I have some nuggets about what we are doing. So that's key, and then I'll really be passionate about how SAP can help this customer. So those are the kinds of things that I spend a lot of time going through.
Yeah, there was something else that I found really useful. I don't know if you do the same, but I'm always interested in their tenure in the company. Somebody who's just been new, they typically came to disrupt the status quo. So you want to talk to them about how you simplify. Somebody who's been there, you have to be careful that you don't just come and say, everything you've done is wrong, let's do it. So what part of that preparation do you find very useful to know that person mindset at that moment?
I think it's key. I mean, you know, that's why I like looking at CNBC interviews and stuff, because normally you get that mindset. But I think you made a good point as well, is understanding the background of somebody is actually really pretty interesting. Which industries they were in previously, what happened in the industries, why did they change from this industry to that industry, and what challenges did they see?
Or a CFO who's got 2 years left.
Exactly.
Why would you talk about 10-year projects?
Exactly. And so when you walk in there, you know, if I was meeting Luka Mucek, for instance, for the first time, you know, I'd be walking in and saying, Luka, you've done a fantastic job transforming SAP into a cloud-based company and managing the financial model. How have you done it? Because other companies have really struggled. What I see in the market is some of the larger other companies that are in the technology industry haven't yet made the shift, but SAP has. That's quite amazing. Such short tenure in that job. What have you done to? So get the person to start having a discussion on what they are doing to be successful in their company.
And I think, Rob, you've already moved to step 2, which is now in the meeting.
Yes.
and what I found really interesting sometimes is when people walk into the meeting, they are overwhelmed.
Yes.
Or the sales team is getting freaking out about you meeting the CEO when never met the CEO. And typically I find if you're well prepared, you're chilled, you relax, you have that first 5 minutes to warm up. So tell me a little bit about that first 5 minutes, and very often these customers keep you waiting. How do you deal with that 5 or 10 minutes late?
It's a really good point. I mean, you've got to be pretty relaxed, right? I mean, so when you go into these meetings, if you're nervous or you perceive to be nervous, it's like giving a speech. That first minute counts so much.
Yeah, the confidence.
The confidence level, you know, because it's not necessarily always about the content, but it's how you deliver it. So when you're walking into the meeting, you need to own your chair, you need to own your space. If the CEO is late, or the CFO, or whoever the executive is late, and there are other people in the room, start engaging. Start making feel like the room is coming, it's becoming warm, and that you're in control of the room. Because when they walk in, they'll feel who's in control. So take control of the room and have substantive discussion. When the CEO gets in the room, stop the discussion, change the discussion, know that that's the most important person in the room now. And so you have to quickly shift the discussion to that person. Now, if they're coming into the room in a hurry and a quick, say to them, I understand you're in a hurry. Understand that your time is valuable, and I just want to make certain, and then start the engagement pretty quickly. But set the tone, summarize the meeting, and understand what your opening is going to be. Be prepared for a late opening and an early opening. A pause of silence, not a good thing. All right. And if the CEO is there up front early on, as you're walking into the room with the CEO, the C-level executive, make the comment about the rugby. Make the comment about personal. Oh, my kid, I know a friend that went to Penn State University. I believe your kid's at Penn State University. How's he enjoying Penn? How's she enjoying Penn State University? What made them decide to go to Penn State? My kid decided to go somewhere else. Have those conversations ready. These are normal people. Yeah,
because I think what you're talking about is that warm up is so critical to create that trust relationship. So I think one of the things that I personally faced lately, and I've seen this everywhere, is a lot of this customer meeting, I judge the customer how the meeting went by their posture, their physical posture. They start with like this. And then my goal is to get them to be excited. And what I found really interesting is they have this perception of SAP is still the old ERP company, stodgy, expensive, very difficult to use. And I find unless I get them off that mental view of SAP, So I'm starting to use this digital story, and it's really opening up door and explain why we spent 30 billion acquisition, why we're a different company. How does that work for you as an opening to create, this is why we're here, we're not here to sell you anything, we're here to discuss how we can help you?
I'll use it in two contexts, Chakib. It's a great point. I was down in Mexico, and I had a meeting with the CFO of the second largest company in Mexico, and it's a family-owned kind of company. And actually in this meeting the CFO was late. He came in 5 to 10 minutes late, and we were meeting with the controller, the treasurer, and one of the business leaders, and we started the discussion. And when he came in, I brought the discussion back to him. They were already invested in SAP, and basically my comment to him when the opening was, the reason we're here is we believe that SAP can transform your business because we've moved into a digital paradigm. And we not only can transform the retail business, but we can transform the finance office, because the finance office of old can really be transformed with where we're going with Simple Finance and S4. And rather than just me articulate it, why didn't I get a young graduate, a young employee from Mexico who's just graduated, finished the SAP Sales Academy, is one of the new generation millennials, to show you and demo. And actually, to be honest, I was pretty scared when I went, because I thought, first of all, wasn't a finance major, meeting a CFO, but he was extremely well prepared, and he blew away the CFO. Why did he blow the CFO away? Because he actually showed the CFO something that they could identify with in their transformation, how you can create P&Ls on the fly, how easy it was to use these P&Ls, how easy the system was to utilize, and how a new finance organization could be